African educators have historically drawn upon rich oral traditions, storytelling, and communal learning methods that are both theologically sound and pedagogically effective. 2. Language and cultural diversity. Africa's linguistic and cultural plurality presents both a challenge and an opportunity. Effective teaching requires contextualization. As Walls 1996 points out, Christianity is always translated. It never exists as pure Christianity apart from a cultural expression. Theological educators must adapt content to local idioms, symbols, and narratives without compromising biblical truth. 3. Post-colonial legacy and curriculum relevance. Many African theological curricula remained heavily influenced by Western epistemologies and methodologies. Bediako 1992 argues for a recovery of African Christian identity through theological reflection rooted in African context. Educators are thus called not to teach, but to curate and shape curricula that speak to local realities, poverty, corruption, tribalism, and plurality. 4. Emerging generations and digital influence. Africa has the youngest population globally, and its youths are tech-savvy and globally connected. Theological education must engage this generation with relevance, as Ngaroya et al. 2019 observed. The future of theological training in Africa will depend on hybrid models that combine face-to-face instruction with digital platforms fostering both access and depth. 5. Gender dynamics in theological access. Theological education in Africa must also address historical gender disparities. Female educators and students often face structural and cultural obstacles. As Mercy Amber 2001 insists, theology must reflect the voices and experiences of African women to be complete. A radical professional approach must therefore include gender-sensitive pedagogy and inclusive institutional policies. Conclusion: a sacred trust and a strategic calling. To teach theology in Africa is to participate in God's redemptive mission for the continent. It is both a sacred trust and a strategic vocation. Theological educators must see their work not merely as academic instruction, but as spiritual formation, cultural engagement, and leadership development. As Paul reminded Timothy, so must every African theological educator remember: do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15. Effective teaching begins with a renewed vision of calling. It is a theological imperative that demands integrity, contextual awareness, and spirit-led creativity. The chapters that follow will unpack how this vision can be translated into practice for the flourishing of theological education in Africa. This is a clarion call. Get a